Okay, perfect. Well, welcome. Um, I would like to introduce Travis Brady, our guest today for the I Rise Above Wellness webinar. And Travis is surviving and thriving past her stage 3A ER positive, PR positive breast cancer diagnosis in 2016. In her quest to help others like herself, Brady interviewed more than 50 breast cancer survivors, learning their needs and stories and getting through treatment. What she uncovered is that all women were looking for positive survivor stories to give them direction and hope. This insight is what led Brady to write Make Room for Healing 40 Tips from a Breast Cancer Survivor, which is the book we're going to discuss today. In addition to supporting cancer patients, Brady keeps busy with her 30-year career in marketing and employee relations. And she lives in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, with her husband and daughter. So without further ado, Travis, welcome. I'm turning it over to you.
All right, thank you. Thanks everybody who joined. I'm excited to see you and be with you today. I thought I do have a PowerPoint for us to go through that takes you through the journey of the book and the things that I find that can be valuable to everyone. But I also want to request that please jump in. Let's make this a discussion. I would rather understand what your needs are and how you think I could support you or anything that you're going through right now that you need a little help with. So when I decided to write this book, it was actually because I went at a year of treatment, right? I was diagnosed in 2017 and it was a full year of treatment until 20 I was diagnosed 2016 to 2017. And in 2017, that year for October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I decided, you know what, I just want to pay it forward because I got so much help while I was going through treatment. I reached out for help. I was proactive about getting opinions, etc. And I thought, you know what, people reach out to me all the time and want to know how they could either help themselves going through treatment or help a friend or a family member. So I wrote one thing every day that helped me get through treatment in that October Breast Cancer Awareness Month of 2017. That ends up being the basis of the book. And really, I was at an event last night and somebody said, "Oh, it's so well researched." I thought, is it? I mean, I don't remember doing tons of research for this. But what I did do is I shared my story, right? It is a self-help memoir, and my hope is just by opening up and being vulnerable that action can connect with others who need that support. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to open up and I'm going to share the things that were really salient and relevant to me. But again, raise your hand, get in here, let's have a discussion. All right, I'm going to share my screen. How's it's doing it? Can you guys see this? No. Hold on. Host disabled participant screen sharing. So I'll wait for you to get that. That's okay. You ready? All right, here we go. Okay. So I'm going to share this. I'm not going to put it in presentation mode because then I lose everybody. So I've just made this as big as I can. So the book is called Make Room for Healing, 40 Tips from a Breast Cancer Survivor. And yeah, I don't know about you guys, but when I was looking for help, I found lots of inspirational books. You've got this, you shine, you go. And, there is room in the space for that book. And I appreciated getting those gifts. The other books that I found were books written by doctors that were 400 to 500 pages. And honestly, I was so overwhelmed during deciding what my treatment options were, getting new testing in, etc., that I just wanted to make something. I just wanted something that was concise, and I wanted my book to feel like it's your best friend holding your hand through the journey. So that's why it's actually it's petite. It's a petite book like me, and very concise so that it's easy to read and easy to understand. All right, so before I had cancer, let me talk a little bit about who I am. My name is Travis Brady, and I am a she, her. I get the question all the time. Did your mother want a boy when she had you? And the answer is no. Actually, my name would have been Charles had I been a boy. But Travis Brady, I was diagnosed at 45 years young. People kept saying, "You're young for this." And I know there are more women today hearing that than ever, that they are young for this diagnosis. At the time, I had a 3-year-old, and professionally, I was a marketer, but emotionally, I was drained in my life, right? I was putting everyone else's needs before my own. I was overscheduled. I was not mindful of my health needs and taking care of my body. So, this is who I was before cancer. So I was diagnosed, like I said, at 45, and I found the lump myself. So I was actually playing with my daughter, who was not quite 3 at the time, and she kicked me right here under my arm. And I lurched up and was like, "What was that?" And I'm going to read you guys my diagnosis story. So I found it myself. I hadn't even started to get mammograms yet. And I know this is a story that can ring true for others as well. Obviously, like anybody, I felt like the rug was pulled out from under me, and I couldn't believe that I was getting this diagnosis. And here is my diagnosis story. I'm going to put on my glasses and read this to you and see if it's similar or different, and we can connect on it. So, my diagnosis story. The short answer: when I talk to people about breast cancer and my treatment journey, inevitably someone asks, "How did you find the cancer?" The short answer is, I found it, or more accurately, my daughter Greer accidentally kicked me, and then I found it. We were tickling each other on the bed, and she kicked me. It hurt so much. I reached up to feel the painful spot, and there was the lump. The longer answer takes a little time, so if you have it, read on. The long answer: my phone rang. I took it into our bedroom and crossed the room to my side of the bed. The doctor was on the phone and asked if I was okay to talk. I needed a minute to situate myself. I sat down on the edge of the bed, closest to the nightstand, and looked out the window into our front yard. It was spring in Northern California, and in between the neighbors' houses, green was everywhere. I braced myself for what was coming. I said I was ready, and the doctor spoke. "You have breast cancer." I don't recall what else he said. He was a hematologist, not an oncologist. This was a little outside his jurisdiction. I think I got pragmatic real quick because at the end of the week, we were moving, quote unquote, back to North Carolina. The house was sold, a new preschool for Greer had been found, the car was getting picked up in a few days. How was it possible that I was diagnosed with cancer? I'm lucky to have wonderful aunts on both sides of my family. When I called one of them, Maggie, to tell her I had breast cancer, she simply said, "F da 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 da." My sentiments exactly. The way this whole thing came about was nutty. It wasn't like I had a mammogram that spotted the tumor. No, I've been playing with my then 2-year-old daughter on our bed sometime in January of 2016. She accidentally kicked me under my left arm near my armpit, and instinctively I lurched back in pain, grabbing the place she'd kicked. There was a little lump, but it was in my armpit. So naturally, I thought, it's got to be a lymph node. Wonder why it's swollen. I called my OBGYN, got an appointment for February, and thought nothing of it. January progressed. I took on a new consulting gig while still working my day job. The new gig would offer me more flexibility and the chance to work remotely when we moved to NC. I was burning the candle at both ends, working 2 jobs, plus planning a cross country move and mothering a toddler at the age of 45. By February, I was sitting in a boardroom for the consulting gig and my phone blinked. Doctor's appointment. Damn, I just missed my appointment with my OBGYN. That had literally never happened in my life, missing a doctor's appointment. I was getting ready to present in the meeting, so I made a note to call the doctor's office, apologize, and read book. But I never did. Fast forward to April, I was in my hematologist's office. I guess I need to go back a bit and tell you why I was seeing a hematologist. Stay with me. Back in December of 2015, I woke up in the middle of the night with a pain in my right side. The pain was so acute, I sat straight up in bed. I didn't want to wake my husband David, so I got out of bed and headed to the kitchen where I grabbed my phone. Once I settled on the couch in the dark, I Googled right side pain, and you guessed it, appendicitis popped up. I remember thinking, there is no way I have appendicitis, no way. But as I sat in the dark on the couch, the pain got worse. My mind started slowly accepting that something was wrong and I needed help. I woke up David. We headed for the Marin General Emergency Room. And then I have these sidebars in my book. So this is a sidebar. You don't know me very well, but I can tell you that before trying to have a child, I had not seen the inside of a doctor's office except for annual checkups. I certainly hadn't gone to the ER, but it probably is a best practice to hightail it to the emergency room if you think you have appendicitis. In the ER, the doctor discovered that whatever elevated labs are associated with appendicitis, I didn't have. Nothing, nil, no signs other than the pain. Then what happened next, I remember like it was yesterday. The doctor said to me, your labs are not showing that it's appendicitis, but your pain says it could be. We should just take your appendix out. Wait, what? My labs said no appendicitis, but you want to take it out anyway? Because I'd been diagnosed with an ectopic pregnancy 2 years before. I knew in that moment I needed to advocate for myself and find an alternative. I pushed back, saying, is there any other test we could run to confirm I have appendicitis? Call me crazy, but I don't take surgery or the loss of a body part lightly. Turned out there was another test. After slurping down some liquid dye and a visit to a big machine, the labs were validated. No appendicitis. Instead, I had a blood clot in my right ovarian vein, super rare, and if they'd operated, the clot might have moved and caused me to die. Later, looking back on this moment with my oncology team, we decided this was actually the first sign of cancer growing in my body. I just didn't know it yet. So this is why I had a hematologist. Blood clot equals hematologist needed. He ruled out that the clot was caused by genetics or a blood disease. He never considered cancer. He put me on blood thinners and a wait and see policy. That's why I found myself at his office a week before we moved back to North Carolina. I was trying for an all clear from him to get off the meds and on with my life just after the doctor announced I was good to go. I said, oh, I have a swollen lymph node in my armpit. Could you take a look at it? The next thing I knew, one of his partners stepped into the room to feel the lump. It wasn't a swollen lymph node. They fast tracked me for a biopsy and the first part of a diagnosis that would turn out to be more serious and a breast cancer that was very aggressive. Sometimes I wonder if I'd seen the doctor in February, if it would have changed the course of my diagnosis or treatment. Maybe. But in the end, my care was much more manageable in North Carolina with the help of our families. I also had UNC and Duke hospitals at my doorstep. Where you get your treatment matters. It actually took more tests, biopsies, and the lumpectomy to determine the final diagnosis, a span of about 3 months from all that was said and done. The process taught me to continually advocate for myself, slow the doctors down when I needed answers, and make sure whatever steps I took felt right to me. I'll explain more about this as you go through the book, but now that you know my diagnosis story, let's get into the tips and make this journey easier for you. I'm here. You've got this. So I'm curious for everyone on the call about your diagnosis story. You can chime in or even put something in the chat of, did you find the cancer yourself? Was it found at the doctor's office? And yeah, just to understand and share.
Travis, I'll chime in if it's okay. just because as you were speaking, can you hear me, Travis?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Just as you were reading and speaking, there were so many things that just popped into my mind. Um, and so often as the leader of the breast cancer support organization for young women, I hear this story over and over and over again about young women discovering their own breast cancer. And sometimes women are fortunate and they detect it early, and sometimes not. And my heart goes out to those that are trying to advocate for themselves and, they're maybe pushed away. And that's a very common thing with breast cancer in young women. If you're not 40, you're not eligible in the United States to be covered for a mammogram. And I mean, it's really disheartening. But I think the word that just kept coming to me as you were speaking is the word advocacy, and how important it is for young women to be, well, all of us to be advocates for our bodies. And it's like that, that slogan, if you see something, say something. It's the same thing about, like, if you feel something, then you should say something because more often than not, we're more in tune with our bodies than the doctor is, and it's probably something. So I can't stress how important it is, especially, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, to just kind of keep bringing that theme forward, that the advocacy part is so important for a diagnosis. So I'll turn that over if anybody else wants to chime in and share their stories of diagnosis.
I just saw in the chat we have Tara who said, I found my lump when I was 39 before I ever had a mammogram. And Marcy, who said, I felt some pain in my right breast and went to the doctor and asked for a mammogram. They found cancer in my left breast. So, yeah. I talk about it throughout the book and actually go deeper, and I'm not going to read it here, but I go deeper into, I was misdiagnosed. I misspoke while I was reading. I was misdiagnosed with an ectopic pregnancy. That meant that I had been working with a fertility doctor, had had a pregnancy in my uterus, and my doctor didn't take the time to really make sure that the baby was in the full, that the not baby, but the embryo was in the fallopian tubes. And ended up giving me medication to kill that pregnancy, something that I, of course, had been wanting. And while I was sitting with that doctor, in that moment when she was in her fear-based mode, she scared my husband so much that he agreed with her. And I knew in my gut I wanted to push back, but I saw the fear in him. So I went with what she had to say. And I can say that living through that, when the cancer came and I had to go through this process, I never put anybody else's feelings, worries, fears on me and took that on. Right. That moment taught me that in every meeting with my doctor, in everything that feels right to me, I validate it for myself and bring it up to get the answers that I need. And I don't care about what anybody else says about that. They think I'm crazy. They think I'm the squeaky wheel. They see me coming and they go, oh no, not her. We don't want her in the office. That's fine because I want to make sure that I get the answers that I need. Yeah. So I actually organized the book to be what I call the best friend walking with you, and it's organized in support, which is things to think about doing first, and things that if you do take the time up front could probably help make the journey easier. I'm a big proponent for second opinions, and I'll talk about that. I have a section called Prepare, and that's getting ready for appointments or dose days or things that you need to think about. A whole section on Nourish, food as medicine, and really thinking about that. I'm also big proponent of that. And then I have a section on Heal, and this is things that you might not be open to, but now, I mean, for me, I was like, I'm gonna throw everything at this, right? I'm gonna throw Western medicine and I'm gonna throw Eastern medicine, and I'm going to get everything in here to help me heal and feel better. And then lastly, enjoy, because what I realized going through this is that you saw the picture of me before cancer and talking about I just lost my joy. I'd put everybody else before me. And I wasn't thinking, this is my life and what do I want that to be? So cancer helped me get back in touch with that. So support, getting a second opinion. I don't know where you guys are on your journeys here. You know, I see in the, I'm sorry, I'm just checking it with the chat. I'm not capable of presenting and reading the chat at the same time. I know some people are, but
Let me
so
help you do that.
I just wanted everybody sharing their stories on how they
Okay,
got it.
Liza. Hi, Liza. Nice to see you in here. She found her lump at 43 in the shower, and was just washing with soap in her hand, and she just discovered it. That's the same as me. And had monthly checks, but the awkward angle in the shower allowed her to feel the lump. Yeah, that was exactly the same for me. And Abby, hey Abby. She started her mammogram at 40 and had 7 before being diagnosed at 47. Did I read that right? 40 mammograms of the 7 involved. People can talk. I don't have to. Don't have to type it
Oh,
in. Abby, do you want to just say what you?
complicated. Yeah, so I started mammograms at 40. 5 of the 7 were, oh, we see something. Oh, we see something. Let's do a
Mm,
biopsy. Let's do an ultrasound. Oh, we see something, right? So starting at 40, there was no history of breast cancer in my family, right? I had had a lump removed at 18 out of my left breast already. That was it was benign, but it started right with, I guess, dense breast tissue and everything else. But
yeah,
I got diagnosed with atypical ductal hyperplasia at 43. And then I had lobular carcinoma in situ at 45. Like I just started this rolling down this horrible hill at 40, right? Every mammogram was a sheer terror, right? And they kept finding, oh, we see something on an MRI. Oh, we see. And so finally, right after the in situ, I think at 45, we did 2 biopsies. And I'm like, just get it out. Like, if there's something in there
yeah,
you don't like, just take it out. Like, I don't need you to biopsy it. Get it the heck out. So my surgeon, like you, I walk in and she's like, I really feel like you need a frequent flyer card. Are we at 7? Is this 9? Like, right. I'd had so many surgeries with her that it was like, can you just make it maybe give me a nice little liposuction and tuck the tummy back in? She's like, you should know I don't make things prettier at this point, right? Like I just really remove
oh,
stuff. But
yeah,
anyway, finally she had just done 2 biopsies in November and those came back and she's as the in situ and she's like, you could start tamoxifen, like you don't have breast cancer, but it's like stage 0. So she's like, let's do another MRI. So I went back in the next month for an MRI. And sure enough, he's like, okay, I see something I don't like. I said, but I just had a biopsy. And he's like, no, it's like 3 centimeters to the left of your biopsy scar. And I'm like, seriously? So I went
right,
back in for another biopsy. And then I got the call, right? Like you, right? I went in on a Thursday, January 7th. They wouldn't let my husband in because it was during COVID, right? I was 21 and they're like, you have to go by yourself. And I'm like, no, I don't do this by myself. And they're
yeah,
like, so he sat in the car and I went out and I was like, this isn't going to be good news. And he's
yeah,
like, how do you know? And I'm like, I just know. Like, right. It's been the wrong side of the wrong hill for 7 years. I'm
yeah,
rolling down. So sure enough, they called the next day and stage 2 breast cancer on the right side.
yeah.
So I had
I'm
about
curious. Yeah, Abby, I'm curious. Did you through that, did you ever go to a different facility or a different doctor to see what they said or even consider that?
so I didn't actually even have an oncologist at this point, right? At this point, I've been seeing the same surgeon that was my biopsy lady. She
Yeah,
does do breast cancer patients, but at this point, she's like, I want to take them off. Like, let's just get rid of them. She's like, I don't want to see you anymore. This is ridiculous. It's been 7 years I've been cutting into you. I don't think this is going to get better, right? You keep trending in like let's just take them off. I want to do it right now. Right. So it was like, okay. So I had 3 weeks to prepare for a double mastectomy. Right. I didn't even have
But
oncology yet.
yeah.
Um, because
And I
she's like,
think sorry, I
right. I
just,
didn't know if it was in the
yeah,
lymph nodes.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Our medical establishment and, they're doing the best they can, with what they have. And in general, I found personally that I never felt like I had enough time with my doctor or the person that I wanted to talk to. And what I talk about here about getting a second opinion in the book in this first section is I was actually seeing a doctor at Duke University Cancer Center who was a top 100 in the world. I'm not bragging about that. It just like happened. That just was who I got. That was the luck of the draw for my oncology team. And, I looked her up. I researched her background. I mean, heavy hitter in this world, right? And I had my surgery first, and I had a lumpectomy because we talked about the different, like, based on placement and lymph nodes, et cetera. That was the choice that I made with my surgeon, and I am very grateful for the surgery team that I had. But when I met with her, my oncologist, she recommended in the type of cancer that I had, being, hormone positive, there were 3 levels at the time. Remember, this is 2016, so things are all evolving. But at the time, she recommended middle of the road chemo, right? There was and radiation. So there was the chemo for sort of, there's level 1, level 2, and level 3, and she recommended middle of the road. And for whatever reason, I didn't jive with her. I was very freaked out, just like any of us are at that time. And I had a friend who said, I have a contact at Johns Hopkins. Why don't you just give him a call and tell him what they're telling you the diagnosis is and what you should expect from treatment. And this is actually how the name of the book came about. But so I called him and we had a discussion, and I wish he could have been my oncologist, but I don't live in Baltimore, Maryland. So that was a little tough. But he had a great bedside manner, and he really laid out what the next year was going to look like for me and what to expect. And then at the end of that conversation, he said to me, oh, yeah. And when you get your second opinion, you should go down to UNC. We have a fellow that runs the department down there. And in that moment, I just had major light bulb of like, what? I mean, I'm seeing a top 100 doctor at Duke. Like, why do I need a second opinion? And he made it sound like a foregone conclusion. Like, yeah, lady, duh, you need to go get a second opinion. You should get on that. And sure enough, I looked up this doctor. I found her online. I called to make an appointment, and in doctor time, it was going to take 2 weeks. I was like, that's fast, doctor time. I'm okay with that. And I got in to see her. She looked at all the same tests, all the same information, and recommended chemo 3. She said, you're 40, 45, getting ready to be 46. You should hit this with everything you've got you're healthy in general, you're healthy. Like, let's do what we can do. But in that moment, I just didn't know. I mean, I didn't know. I'd never been in a health crisis where I needed more information. And that, I think, I'm knocking on wood right here, but it is one of the reasons that I'm still here today, is I chose that chemo 3 through, by getting that second opinion. And I just would coach anybody on the phone to say, when someone recommends something to you, a surgery, a medication, a protocol, definitely feel like you can reach out and find somebody else to get a second opinion. I don't think it's worth getting a third, fourth, fifth, but a second one just to say, oh, the recommendation is the same, or, oh, the recommendation is different. So for me, the recommendation was different from 2 top 100 doctors. And then I had to make a decision, what felt right to me. and in what facility did I feel the best? Because I was going to be going to this place for a full year. So where's the office? The people, where did I feel most comfortable? And I chose to move my care, over because of that second opinion. So I'm a big believer in that. And there's lots of ways now because of teledoc, because of COVID, right? Teledocs, virtual appointments. I mean, I think you can even reach out to MD Anderson and get your labs, get things looked at. I'm a big proponent of shopping for the right fit for your care team and making sure that you're getting the answers that you need.
Yeah. There were lots of things going on for me as I was listening to you all speak, and that is that it is so important to get second opinions. And sometimes there's a lot of bureaucracy within hospitals, and doctors' hands are tied with, the type of innovative treatments that they can, recommend. And also, a hospital like Johns Hopkins is where I go, where I've gone for 13 years. When they're a teaching hospital, it's almost like it's more cutting edge. There's more, treatments that have just come to the forefront where they're like, okay, we can move from doing, what we've been doing for the last 10 years, and we can try this because we know that it works. And unfortunately, in some rural areas, that is not always a possibility. And the other thing that I was thinking about, because I know I'm from Canada, and I know we have some people participating in this webinar who are Canadian, and that is a whole other system. Like, it's not even a possibility to just get a second opinion. So there's also, unfortunately, some disparities in, the care that are, that we get in depending on our location. And so that's something really tough to navigate for sure.
Well, I'm just wondering because I don't know about the Canadian healthcare system. I mean, is it possible to reach out to, say, an MD Anderson online, find a doctor and send your information there to have them look at it and schedule virtual appointments? I
I
don't know.
don't know. Well, when that's done, don't they, like, when we get a second opinion with a physician, aren't we still paying for our doctor's appointment through insurance? I'm pretty sure we are for that second opinion. I'm asking you, Travis,
Oh,
because you.
sorry. I thought you were asking Canadians.
No, 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 no. I'm saying, like, when we in the United States, when we get a second opinion, that's still scheduled as a doctor's appointment.
It's still a doctor's appointment. Yes.
So to that point, um, Canadians would just have to pay for it. Sure, they could do that, but it wouldn't be covered by any kind of coverage
Oh,
unless.
got it. Okay. I see Marcy says in Canada, I felt like it was you get what you get and who
Yeah,
you get. So
unfortunately, I get it this time.
yeah,
Actually,
and that
when I was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, almost 8 years ago, the first line treatment that I received was oral medicine, chemotherapy that wasn't available for another 3 years in Canada. And I think about that a lot, like how that first line care was not available, and it was cutting edge at that time. And I'm grateful that I was actually here in the United States because that was available to me. And
right.
yeah, I'm grateful that I am here.
Yeah.
And I know my my colleagues at Rethink Breast Cancer are in Canada, which is, basically an organization that for young women, young people within Canada, that they do a lot of advocacy and support work, and have really shifted their focus on advocating for metastatic breast cancer, so that there's more research and there's more support, so that women aren't, or people aren't getting to that phase, like that, to try to um, minimize that by recognizing that these second opinions are super important, and having access to these first line medications is important. So yeah, there's a lot to be done there.
Yeah. 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 Um, the next thing that I have in the book or I wanted to share is the section called Prepare. And this was actually, I mean, it's for everyone here, but it's also a section and chapter opening to the good vibes that are about getting your family and friends focused on what you need, as you go through treatment. Because I would imagine, at least for me, I had a lot of people reach out and say, how can I help? How can I help? And there was a part of me that just didn't know, right? I don't know what I need. I don't know how to help. And some people just reached out and sent what I call care packages, right? Just little things to show that they were thinking of me. I mean, I don't write this chapter. It's funny because in the end I say, I'm not sharing all of this to show you look how much stuff I got, but just to show that just even, a little something to show that you're thinking about someone. I think one of the best things that happened for me during treatment was getting texts from friends, just being like, you know what, I'm thinking about you today. You're in my heart, and I'm sending light and love. And it just really was one of those things where, I didn't have to answer back. I didn't have to talk to that person, but I just appreciated that they were putting good vibes out into the universe for me and my health. And I'd be curious to hear from this group, what has been supporting you the most or supported you the most going through this, what you found the most helpful. You can do chats, you can answer up, or you can say, I didn't get the help, or I need help. And what ideas do you have for me?
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Tara. I don't know if my video turned on or not.
Did.
So it did?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think you point to a really important part of our journey, Travis, and I just was going to briefly share that one of my girlfriends had a calendar list that she somehow got a group of hundreds of friends, coworkers, whatever, and I got mail every day. Somebody would send me a card, or could be a gift, but the cards were just as impactful, if not more. And that was like incredibly helpful. And I think I would look into doing that for somebody else. It was a simple way people could reach out. It didn't really cost much. And it really meant a lot to me. I didn't need a food delivery service. I didn't need actual gifts. So that was really impactful.
I love that. That sounds amazing. I'm just curious, how did they organize it? Do you know? Was it like a sign up genius, or?
She just simply created an Excel spreadsheet and a Google Doc, and just shared it, and people signed up. It was pretty cool. Pretty simple.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Do you look back at those?
So I have a book, like I think probably a lot of us do, and I'm kind of it's one of those things that I haven't been brave enough to really go back. I think maybe someday I will. They're there if I need them. But it's also kind of dark, and I'm just not there yet. I don't need that right now. I don't know. I'm sure others can relate to that.
100%. I also have the same thing. It's in a box, and
The box.
I read them, and then I put them in the box. I think it's like a hat box or something, and I've not gone back either. And I don't know why. It's interesting. I was curious to hear your answer.
Yeah, I don't think that there is like a real answer, right? I think you probably feel the same way, Jillian. It's like, I don't know. Now when I think about the I Rise groups, like, yeah, if I need a little uplifter, some of those things I will go to post, but that's post treatment. There's something dark about going back to anything during your treatment, at least for me personally. In fact, I even have like stacks and stacks of paperwork and bills and things that I kept. And every time I like take on the daunting task of like sorting through and, getting rid of whatever I don't need, it's just too overwhelming, and I end up stopping. And it's just one of those things I can't face yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, one of the things I read about in the book is I share disclaimer after disclaimer that I'm not a professionally licensed anything, doctor, counselor, but when I hear you talking, I can connect and identify with that first year after treatment. I mean, I was in a place of just this really weird space, right? Of you know, not being in active treatment. So I didn't feel like I was doing anything, but not really recognizing quite yet that I'd really gone through trauma, going through breast cancer treatment and going into the hospital and going and doing all of this stuff is traumatic. And there's so many people that get lots of help for their trauma, right? To be able to process that. And I mean, I'm 8 years now on the other side of this. I mean, when I tell you that I wrote this book to help people like us going through treatment and holding their hand, my best friend would tell you otherwise. He would say, "Oh no, Travis, you wrote this book to process everything that you went through." Right. And it's a lot. And it's like, we have to really be gentle with ourselves, of no judgment, and whatever works in that moment, and really connecting with ourselves to find out what works. You may never open those letters, and it may be okay to have a fire in your backyard, or in the house, and just burn all of them at some point. It's just whatever license you need to give yourself to let go and move through the trauma, right? It takes time. Yeah.
Something just dawned on me when you were saying that, Travis, and that is that, it's no secret, I'm very open about talking about, how I felt when I was diagnosed with stage 3 ER/PR positive, HER2 negative, 13 years ago. And then my breast cancer returned as metastatic 8 years ago. And I think there's a part when, when you receive that diagnosis and you're sitting on the end of that bed and you're like, holy shit, what just happened? Like, this is, you don't really hear anything. For me with metastatic, I didn't hear anything except you're going to die. And it was at this moment where I just really felt like I was on the edge of this cliff where I could choose to be broken open and allow there to be cancer to be my teacher, and for the possibility of transformation and change to occur, or I could, ruminate into despair and allow like the breast cancer to define me. And then, I know for myself that that was a surefire way that that was going to be the end of my life. And so I think in that moment where you're in that space where you're receiving these letters, for example, like in mine and Tara's case, it kind of takes me back to that moment of like, what would it be like if I wallowed into despair and I just didn't decide to have the courage to allow breast cancer to be my teacher, at least that is for me. But and I want to make sure that we get everybody in here. And if you're just a little quick housekeeping, if you're having conversations in the back, could you please just mute your speaker, please? I can hear people talking. I just want to say something. I want to read what Liza had to share.
The big insurance companies, you see advertising on TV, they may try to down.
Can somebody please mute their if they're not speaking, their speakers, please? I hear a TV. One thing that Liza said that I think was really important, and thank you for sharing that, Liza, is that the best thing that helped her was offers to transfer leave hours from work so she could have more time off, and offers to bring her kiddo to someone's house for play dates. Yes, especially young moms, that's so hard. And offers to get my husband out of the house so he could relax from a caregiver's role a little. Oh my goodness, my heart. Yes, like caregivers, they're like the most underrepresented, you know, person in this whole equation, and like good for your friends for getting him out, you know, just to have some time for him. So I think that all of that is just so wonderful. Did anybody else have that support? That sounds great. No? Okay. And I want to make sure I get to read all of these. Oh, is there someone gonna share? No. Uh, okay. And Marcy, do you just want to share, or do you rather me just read?
I can share, just there was noise going on in my house too.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, the food that I received from people and messages and dropping in, all of that was wonderful, but I felt not the most, I guess, support from 3 women who I knew who had recently been through breast cancer. So they would send me texts on chemo morning, and I was like, how do they even remember? But like, they took that time to remember, and they would bring me something like, oh, this lotion worked really well when I had such dry skin. And yeah, they were a wonderful support for me.
That's great. That's really wonderful. And you know, it does matter, you know, when you've been through something and you've experienced something and you have something to tell or something to share, having that support within a community who understand the journey because they've walked it is so powerful to have that. It has been like it has saved my life for sure. So I'm so glad, Marcy, you have that.
And they look at you differently too, right? They're not like that, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through
Yes.
this. They're just
Right.
like, rock this, girl. Like, you got this. I did it. You can do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
I can totally relate to that.
I think that points to, I'm sure other people can relate, that like the pity, God, the last thing I wanted from anybody was pity. And it still just sits with me the wrong way when somebody says I can't imagine. Because I'm like, well, there's a good chance in your life you might have to imagine. So I think sometimes people, all well-meaning, and I try to give grace because you don't know until you know, it affects you directly. But I've learned a lot about how to be empathetic to other people through the process. So, and to try to say better things than I might have said before I was diagnosed.
Yeah. Yeah. I just it leads me to something that I want to share with you guys. It's not this next slide because you can, you know, get the book, and I am a big believer in green juice. Just know it. I love it. I'm a big believer in food as medicine, and I have a whole section devoted to that. But I'm just conscious of the time, and I you know, in the book and in my journey, I explored lots of different modalities of healing. So I did Western medicine, and I led with that, you know, with oncology, radiation, surgery, medications, etc. But I also supported it where I could with any sort of Eastern practices, you know, acupuncture, Reiki, um, you know, and what I'm going to share with you now, there's a woman that I actually worked with when I was in Northern California, and I'd been misdiagnosed with that ectopic pregnancy, and she did some body work on me and what she calls vision weaving. And when I was deep into chemo, I reached back out to her and said, you know, I do need some more support. And what I realized, and I wrote in the book, is she really helped me to focus on seeing areas of trauma that maybe I hadn't dealt with in the past, nothing to do with cancer, that I needed to go back and take a look at. And then also to give me this vision that I'm sharing with you, these affirmations of really saying, and it's what Jillian had commented on before, which is making a conscious choice to envision myself, you know, through this and what I was trying to accomplish, which is this vision of health, right? So I'm just going to read this little portion of the book. Um, um, let's see. After my cancer diagnosis, my experience with Sarah, that's her name, Sarah McLeod, came back to me. I was asking myself big questions like, why did I develop breast cancer? Why was this happening to me? Would I die? How could I heal? I set myself on a path to find answers. Sarah and I scheduled 12 phone sessions since we were now living in different places. During the call, I updated her on my treatment progress. Sarah would share her insights. Then, after talking, we'd hang up the phone and start our next phase. On her side of the world, Sarah lives in Australia now. Sarah would connect with spirit to see what needed clearing and healing from my body. It's a process that she calls vision weaving. On my side of the world, I would listen to a recorded, guided visualization Sarah designed to eradicate cancer cells from my body. I almost always fell into a deeply relaxed state that felt like floating through space. It was comforting to listen to Sarah's Aussie accent and journey with her as the meditation sought to restore my body. We started this process before my first chemo treatment. You see, after my guided visualization and her vision weaving, she sent me an email about what she saw and what I might need or consider at that moment. There was a point during chemotherapy when I was ready to give up. It felt like it would be easier to stop treatment, let go, and die. No more pain, no more struggle. My spirit could float into the ever expanding energy of the universe and go home to source peacefully. Sarah and I talked about this. She held sacred space for me to explore where I wanted to be and how I wanted to live going forward. Our talks brought grace and ease in my time of discernment. In working with Sarah, I soon recognized that I needed my vitality to experience and live this newfound understanding. Sarah gave me an affirmation, which I pass on to you. I invite you to say it as a prayer or to write it down. You can say it upon waking or before sleep. I am vitality. I am the life force. I am vigor. I am healed. I am whole. I am in complete remission. When I said it, I imagined light running through my body, my eyes closed, a peaceful smile spread across my face, a feeling of contentment and quiet joy enveloped me. My whole being, body, and spirit integrated and healed to stay on this planet.
Very good.
So
That's beautiful, Travis.
it was such a gift, and
Yeah.
I would like to gift it to everyone here. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. The word that stands out for me is whole. And I think that one thing that, for me, I've learned through my 13 years is that, wholeness is something that I'm really trying to, reach and accomplish, or not accomplish isn't the right word, to feel whole, because you can, at the same time of feeling complete grief, you can also feel complete joy. And that they're not mutually exclusive. There's always, a dual, like the yin and the yang, they can both be present and that be okay. And I think this is just a really beautiful piece to share with our group. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I just tried to cut and paste it and put it in the chat, but I didn't have much. Let's see if I can do that. Here we go. There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
I keep this on a sticky note next to my bed, and I say it before I go to sleep. Yeah. Yeah. I still do that, and I'm yeah. Yeah, because just like anyone, there's there's always the fear. The fear is there of what cancer does to the body, what it can do, and what it means. Jillian, what you're saying. To me, this is the way that for me personally, I can focus on something that is the opposite of that.
Nice. Very nice.
So I see we just have a couple minutes left. So I can read one more thing from the book, or we can have a question and answer, more questions. Whatever you guys feel. I'm going to step to here because I will tell you guys that now, after cancer, sitting here at 53 years young and being 8 years into this after journey, professionally, I changed who I was to really lead with wanting to be of service. I'd never thought about that, right? I just had not been conscious of that. And so in general, I look for ways in my day-to-day life to be of service and not at the expense of my own health. Many of you probably, I live in North Carolina, and the western part of the state was hit very hard by Hurricane Helene. I work for a company where a third of our workforce is in that area. And during that time, 4 days after we were just trying to locate our employees, 400 of them, to make sure that they were alive. And by Tuesday of the fourth day, 5 p.m., we found our last employee, and 100% had people accounted for, which is a miracle in and of itself. But I had a friend who's a dear friend call me up and said, I know what you're dealing with, and I know you. I know that you are putting this task before your own health, and you're getting ready to go out and have this book launch, and your whole book is about self-care. You have got to remember to take care of yourself and to put your health first. And I personally, I have to constantly remind myself of that. I don't know if other people do as well, but I definitely have to, every week think through, how am I supporting my body this week versus anything else that I need to do. And in that as well, looking for ways to find joy that's just for me, not for my daughter, not for my husband, not for friends, not for family, just for me. And so it's a practice. It's not something that I have every day, but it's something that I work towards a little bit every day.
That's really important, Travis. A really important point, maybe perhaps because of time to end on, but you can't give others what you don't give yourself. So if you're called to service, the first person you should be servicing is yourself, just to make sure, like you said, you don't get the burnout, and you can be effective and you can show up differently in whatever capacity it is that you want to serve.
Right. You can't pour from an empty cup, as Marcy says. As my aunt reminded me, hey, remember what they say on the plane. Put your mask on yourself first before administering to anybody else. And it is the thing that I remember all the time. I'm like, oh, right. I need to do that. So look, if any of you guys, want to follow up or get in touch, here's my net at.
I will, Travis, I'm going to follow up with everybody afterwards who was on,
Great.
and
Okay.
I will share all of the links to your socials and your website and everything so that people know where to find you, where to find your book. And if they want to reach out and have any questions or just connect with you through email, is that okay?
Yes. So I shared my email, connect@travisbrady.com.
Okay.
And
And
Julie,
I
the
will.
last thing we can't forget.
No, I won't. And so there were a lot more people that registered for this than showed up. And I'm sort of thinking um, for this draw, we can do it for those that showed up, but that's up to you, however you want to do it.
Yeah, I'd love to do it for who showed up.
Okay. So do you want to do we'll announce it through email after, do the number draw? Do you want to show them what it is?
Yeah, let me show. So guys, I just have this really wonderful person that I work with, and she said, you should get sponsors for your book tour. And I was like, what? Really? Okay. That sounds awesome. So I have a gift basket in here. There's 4 items from EO products. They're out of San Rafael, California, really clean products, lavender smell. It's one of the only things I could tolerate when I was going through treatment. And they sent products for people. I have Sarah McLeod that I just talked about, her vision weaving. She's donated a 30-minute session, a guided meditation to do with the winner of this. I have a candle in here that says sending light and love your way. I don't know about you guys. I was sensitive to smell, so this is unscented that my friend in Brooklyn sent from her store. We have the book and then a necklace that's mimicked off of a necklace my husband gave me to get through treatment. Yeah.
Great. So we will do the draw after and send whoever is drawn from that, the winner. And then I'll connect you, Travis, so that you can figure out how to send it to them. Does that sound good?
Perfect. That sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for showing up and participating. And we just announced our next webinar next month, which will be updates in oncolytics. I didn't even know that was a new word, but it is. It's about oral chemotherapy. So may not apply to many people in this group, but you never know. So look for that. It'll be November 4th, I think it is. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And Travis, big thank you to you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.